Alright, so if you are working with Linux, VMs, GitHub and clouds, AWS clouds nowadays, you might have already heard about SSH keys. SSH secure shell keys are an access credentials that is used in SSH protocol. So I'm going to talk about these things related to SSH-Agent and how you can use in Jenkins. So for this, I'm going to talk about all these points which you see in the screen now. First, we are going to understand about SSH keys. I'm going to keep it really simple in super layman terms. And then secondly, we will generate SSH keys in a Linux machine. We can do that in a Windows machine, but I think it's more easier to do it in a Linux machine. Third, we'll use SSH-Agent plugin in Jenkins, actually in a Windows machine. I mean, the Jenkins will be running in a Windows machine. You must know this properly, else SSH keys might not work whether you connect to GitHub or other such services. Fourth, we'll see few examples of SSH-Agent in action with the Jenkins running in my Windows machine.
I'm Kumar and welcome to my channel on tech and tutorials.
So let's get started. So first, let us try to understand a little bit about the SSH protocol. Actually, SSH protocol is heavily used nowadays. You use it to log in remotely from one machine to another machine, most likely into a Linux machine or to our AWS VMs, Linux VMs. So if you're working from Windows, you use your PuTTY to connect to your Linux machine using the SSH protocol. SSH is a strong encryption which makes it good to carry out tasks such as doing remote commands and remotely managing network host and other services in your office or in your cloud network. Let's go to Google and search for SSH protocol. You can go to this picture here and see here there is an SSH client and SSH server. There is a communication which is happening between that, and you can see the client initiates the connection by contacting server, and then the server actually sends the public key, and then it negotiates parameter and opens a secure channel both ways, and then the client is able to log into the server, SSH server, and then continue with the other operations. So that's about the protocol flow of connection. Main point to note, without SSH, you want to transfer data to one of your friends. It is possible to be opened and read by someone else. And then using SSH protocol, it will be encrypted and secured with the public keys, and only the receiver can open it. Okay, so now coming back to the SSH keys. The keys are an authentication mechanism actually used to access the remote entity without having to provide your password every time, and it goes in an encrypted way. SSH key pair actually creates, when you generate the SSH key pairs, it will create two long strings of characters. You will get a public key and a private key. So on Windows also, you can generate your own SSH key pair by downloading and using an SSH client like PuTTY. On Mac and Linux machines, it is possible to generate an SSH key pair using the same terminal window. You can generate your SSH keys anywhere, but you need to put it in a proper place or proper location to use it to access it. Okay, so this is super important now. So just listen up. So the private key remains on the system being used to access the remote server. Okay, and it is actually used to decrypt information that is exchanged in the SSH protocol. So again, I am repeating, the private key stays on the client. So in this picture, if you see here the SSH client, this is where you will keep your private key. So let me just put it here, private. So the private key stays in the client machine, and the public key will stay in the server. So public, and then the private key is actually secured by a passphrase. You will see that once when we generate the keys in a Linux machine. Now coming to the public key, a public key is actually used to encrypt information and is used by the user and the remote server. I mean the client and as well as the server. So the public key is actually saved in a file that will actually have a list of authorized public keys. So it can have multiple public keys. So multiple clients should be able to connect to the server, since this is the server machine, and then there can be multiple clients. We will store the public key in a authorized file in the server side. So you will actually save it in the authorized _keys file. We'll see that when we generate the keys in our one of the Linux machine, and you place the public key on any server. Basically, you can generate the keys any machine, anywhere, but you can place the public key in or your server that you want to access, and then your private key will be in the client machine. As I was saying earlier, this is super important. You will have to use the private key in your client machine to connect to this server. So that's how Jenkins will be able to connect one of the servers. Jenkins will have the private key, and it should be able to connect to the server using that private key and the passphrase. Okay, so I hope I was able to explain it in easy way. Okay, moving ahead and going on to the next point of discussion, we will try to generate SSH keys in one of the Linux machines. So let us go to the console. Okay, so this is one of my servers which is running Ubuntu 20 Linux OS, and I'm logging as a Docker user in this machine. I've already generated SSH keys for this user. What I can show you here is this is the folder where actually you will get all the keys. So once you come to your home folder, in this case home Docker, this is the home folder for the Docker user, and then .ssh, you will see your keys in here. So once you can see that this ones I already generated. ID_RSA is the private key, and this is pub is the public key, and this is where you store the public keys, actually the authorized underscore keys. So what I will do is I will try to generate SSH key for the root user. So I will log in as root sudo -i, and I'll try to generate the SSH keys here. So for that, let me go to SSH. So going to Google, and then you can search for SSH-Keygen. You can go to one of these URLs, probably the first one. And so the command is SSH-Keygen. This is one command you can use, and you can generate your public and the private key pair. So there are a lot of options which you can provide while generating, like -t is a type of key. You can go through this link and you can read. So if you see in this link in here, you can see that all the options and all the descriptions. -b is for bits, number of bits in the key, how secure is your key. So, and then -t is the algorithm which is used. So basically by default it is RSA. So if you want, you can go through this link and read through it. Let us go ahead and generate our SSH keys. So once I come here, now this is my root login, and then I will do is SSH-Keygen. So I'll just provide the single command SSH-Keygen without any option, and let us see what actually it does. Okay, so it is asking where to save this file. So by default it goes to the home folder. So this is a root login, so it goes to root.ssh and then ID_RSA, where you want to save your key, the private. So this is for the private. Usually save it in their home folder. So I'll just hit enter, which will save it in this path .ssh ID_RSA, and then you need to provide a passphrase. The next query it does is for the passphrase. You can keep it empty if you want to, but it is good practice to provide a proper password or passphrase in this case, so that it's more difficult for unauthorized people. In case if they get your keys, secret key also, then they should not be able to use that private key without the passphrase. So what I will do here is I will provide a passphrase in here and hit enter. So it will again ask to enter the passphrase. Okay, so now both my public and the private keys would have been generated. So let us see that. So let us go to .ssh folder. Let me clear my screen and then see ID_RSA, ID_RSA.pub. Okay, so these are my two keys. One is the private and one is the public key. Next thing I have to do is I have to add my public key into the authorized keys, so that whoever has this private key should be able to log in to this machine without needing to provide the username and password. So what I can do is I can just do like this, get the public key and redirect it to the authorized key. So the best way to do is you should append to this authorized key. Right now this authorized_keys file is fully empty, but most times if it is a server it will have other keys as well. So you should do an append rather than copy it directly into this file. So this command will append the public keys, these keys, into the authorized_keys file. So that completes the generation of the SSH keys, and we are ready to use it in any client application wherever we want to. So next we are going to use this private and the public keys in Jenkins, and we are going to use the SSH-Agent plugin in Jenkins. So for that we need to log in to the Jenkins server. So let us open our Jenkins in my machine. Okay, jenkins.war. So in the meantime, let me also open the browser. Okay, so looks like my Jenkins is fully up and running. Now let us go ahead and see here. Okay, so let me log in. Once we log into Jenkins server, go to manage Jenkins. And we have to do is we have to go to manage plugins. Okay, in the plugin manager we can go to available and we can search for SSH-Agent, and you should see this one, SSH-Agent, and you can do an install without restart. So this is going to take few seconds, and this is done. Go to the top page, home page. So next what we can do is we can again go to manage Jenkins, and we can add the credentials, the private key in Jenkins, in this Jenkins. So go to manage credentials. Okay, so once we are in the credentials, you can go to Jenkins here. So I have already created my SSH keys for the Docker host earlier, so that's why you are able to see this one. But then once you go to Jenkins and then go to global credentials, and you should see all your credentials for accessing your other services or other servers. So what we can do is we can add credential for our root SSH keys. So you can select SSH username with private key, and you can provide Docker host root keys, and you can provide the username as Docker. That's okay to give. It will work fine here. We can provide the user to log in the shell command while we do the actual login, and then you can provide the private key directly here. So let's go to here. Let's go to the machine, and then we can copy our private key. So let me do a cat, and then copy. Let's copy this whole private key, and that was pasted here. Okay. So this is fine, and you provide the passphrase that you provided while generating your SSH keys, and then click OK. Okay, so this is good and fine now. Now let us create a Jenkins job to test our SSH keys from this Jenkins to the Ubuntu server. So let's create a pipeline job in here and click OK. So what I'll do is I keep on discarding the old builds so that it doesn't consume space in my system. I'll just put 2 in, then move ahead and go to pipeline script. In the pipeline script, let us go to pipeline syntax to build our script, and let us select the SSH-Agent. And this is what it will generate. So for this, what we'll do is we'll use the old one, I mean the Docker one first, and before trying out the root one, Docker host SSH keys. This is the old one using the Docker login, not the root one that I created. And we'll generate a pipeline script. Let us copy this SSH-Agent using these keys, and let us come back to our Jenkins job and paste it here. Okay, so what I will do is I'll make it as a scripted pipeline script instead of a declarative one. So again, let us come back here. So let me also copy this one first. So this is the one, and paste it here. Okay, so let me change the username as well as the IP 192.68.1.16, and then let us save this. So let me run this. This is not going to work because I haven't set the SSH-Agent anyway. So let us build this, and let me show you the exception that it generated. Okay, so let us go to the build history and then go to console output for this one, and now you see that this SSH-Agent could not find a suitable SSH-Agent provider. So that means it's not finding the SSH-Agent command in this Windows machine. For this, what you need to do is you need to install git bash in your Windows machine. I already have git bash in my Windows machine, so let me open a git bash. So git bash, so this is git bash. So what we can do is we can search for SSH-Agent, where SSH-Agent, and it gives us 2 paths here. One is the C program files git. This is the one which came with my git bash git, and this is the one by default Windows has this OpenSSH. So the problem is this Windows one will not work with the Jenkins one because of this bug in Jenkins. See here, SSH-Agent plugin broken on Windows 10. If you go to this URL and if you see that here, so what they are saying is you need to provide the path of your SSH-Agent for the git one, not the one which is in OpenSSH. Okay, so for that, let us go to our environment variable setting in this Windows machine, env, and go to environment variables, and let us go to the path variable for this. If you see here you see already system32 OpenSSH, system root system32 OpenSSH. Okay, Windows system32 OpenSSH. So this path is already there for this Windows machine, but it will not work because of this problem which I have shown you in here. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to copy this path up till bin, and come back to environment variable and click new and paste it. Okay, and then what we do is we move this up above the OpenSSH one which comes by default with the Windows machine. So I just moved it above the Windows one, just above this one, and I press OK and OK, and then again another OK. Now the other thing which we need to do is we need to restart our Jenkins. So for that, I stop this Jenkins which is running, and I have to close this command prompt. Otherwise, it doesn't get proper variables. So let me again open another prompt and then restart Jenkins server. Okay, so my Jenkins is fully up and running now, and it's taking a bit more time. It's back up now. Go to Jenkins, login. We go back to our Jenkins job, and now we do a build now and see how it works. So let us go inside this job, console output, and now you see that it got fine. My command got executed on that machine 192.168.1.16, and you see the command uname -a got executed and see the details in here. So what I can do is I can go back to this one, configure, and let us change the command here and put a who here, who. We'll save it and do a build now and go to the console output of this and see who is the user which got logged in. So docker. So now this was the command 192.168.1.16, and who was the who was the command, and you see here docker. This is the only one user which got logged in into that Ubuntu server. Okay, we have seen how you can configure SSH-Agent in Jenkins, and we have seen how to configure your Windows machine to be able to connect to a Linux machine and execute command. Okay, in the final part, let us see with another user, the root user, and then we will see few examples for this SSH-Agent and how you can make it running in a better way for your Jenkins server. Okay, so let us go back to our project and do a configure again, and this time let us go back to our pipeline script and let us use the same SSH-Agent, and this time let us use the docker one. I mean, this is the one which was the root user's SSH keys, and generate a pipeline script again here. So let me copy this, paste it here, and let me copy the same command, and we'll do a save and let us do a build now. So this is going to fail. So let us see that. Let us go into the console output. You should see a permission denied cause. The login provided was docker, whereas we generated keys with root user. So we come back to the configure job page again, and this time we will change this user to root user, and even we'll change this command to something more specific like who am I. Who am I seems to be better command to find out who has logged in, instead of who am I command is the better command to print who actually is logged in into that machine. So we'll do a save and we'll do a build now, and let us go and see the console output. And this time you see here the first one's okay, prints the docker, and the second one, the second command where we have provided the root user's access keys as well as the login user is root, and the command who am I prints the root user. So you see that even if the root user login with password is disabled, in Ubuntu root user login is disabled by default with the password, the same user is able to connect with SSH keys to our Ubuntu machine, and you see the power of this SSH keys and how important to safeguard your keys and passphrase in a proper location wherever you are using those keys. Let us do one thing. Let us provide another command to identify it better. ID I will provide here, and then ID I will provide. Do a save and let us run it again. So now you see that the ID which got generated, so this was the first one using the docker SSH keys. The ID, this is UID docker 1000. This is the docker login. For this one, the root one, and the ID is 0 here, root. So that's how I'm able to log in as root user. It's a proper root login into this Ubuntu server machine. So next, so this is all good and fine, but let me show you one issue here. What happens is, if for some reason my command actually fails here, it's not able to execute the command, or it gives an exit status of failure here. So for example, I provide some invalid command. Let me save this and let me do a build now, and you see that this command got failed. Finish script return code exit code 127, and it got failed here because this command is not found in this Linux machine. What actually I wanted is, I just want to be not failing. I don't want this part of code to fail out. I just want to execute this command in the Linux machine. It doesn't matter to me that it failed or it passed, but I want to go to the next step, next command. So how can I do that? So for that, what we need to do is we need to provide a little different way of executing this sh command. So what we can do is we can provide this command sh return status no matter what, it should return as true, and then the script will pass in the other SSH command. So if this one fails also, it should go to the next. So I'll do a save and let me do a build now, and let us go to the console output and see what's actually happening here. You see here the command not found. It went ahead after this, and then you see the next command, it got passed, and the final status would be successful. So the next command also got executed in spite of the previous one getting failed. Okay, so that's all in this video. I hope it was helpful to you. We have seen about SSH keys. We have talked a little bit about SSH protocol in a super easy way. And then we have seen how to generate SSH keys in a Linux machine. Also, we have seen about the SSH-Agent plugin in Jenkins. And of course, we have seen how you can configure it in a Windows machine. And then we have seen a couple of examples of SSH-Agent in action with Jenkins. Thanks so much for watching, and do subscribe my channel for more such videos. And see you in the next video.